Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Cellar Talks. And today we're in episode 4 of season 3, and we're going to talk about a Spanish winery in the denomination or appellation of Cigales. And our guest is the son of the winemaker and the next generation, who will tell us all about the winery Bodega Cesar Principe. So let's see if we can get our guest in the show. In the meanwhile, if you have some questions today, you can ask them in the question mark box in the bottom, and feel free to also post them in the chat, so we try to keep up with them as soon as they're as we have time for those. So just a minute, and I'll see if we can get our guest in the show. I see some people dropping in, so that's good. And just looking to see if Juan is ready to join us. Before we start, we will talk about this in the story, but Cigales appellation is known a lot for rosé wines. So today we're not going to talk too much about rosé wines, but we're more going to talk about red wines, because this is what they're specialized in, the winery we're going to talk with. And of course, if you look at where they are situated, they're very close to Ribera del Duero, so some good wines can be made there, but we're going to learn all about that. And just a minute before Juan will join us. Always takes some time for us to get the guests in. And we're still have to wait for a couple of minutes to get Juan in the show. So please stay tuned, and in a couple of minutes he will be joining us. In the meanwhile, if you're drinking a wine, please share with us what you're drinking. Maybe a Spanish wine, but I also see that the winery is online, so I'm going to add them into the conversation. So just waiting for Juan to accept. Yes. Hello. Good evening.
Hi, Niels. How
How are you?
Good. I'm good.
Good. So I was just explaining, we always have some issues with the technical side of things, because it's live and it's Instagram. So sometimes we have to be patient and we wait, but in the end, it always works. So thank you for being in the show tonight, first of all.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, so I already explained a little bit, but I didn't want to talk too much about Cigales and rosé wines, but I already teased the people that we're going to talk more about it, that there is a story behind rosé wines and red wines there. So we will talk more about that, but before we go, maybe we do a quick introduction from your side. So tell us a little bit what your role is in the wine company and what your background is. So yeah, just for us to get to know you a little bit.
Okay. So, well, now I'm the young boy of the winery, because I'm the last entrance, like the last guy in the winery. So now I'm learning about everything in the winery. I was working like the weekends or on holidays, or from I was just a child. But in the last year, I was working more and more in the winery. Now, till the last months, last year, I start to work full time in the winery. So now,
But for the people to explain, they don't know, your father is running now the winery, and you're the next generation to take over
Yeah,
at some point.
I'm the
Yeah.
fourth generation of the
Yes.
winery. Cesar Principe was my grandfather, and Eutiquio was my great grandfather, and we're now working on the vines, on the vineyards who Eutiquio planted almost a century ago.
So your great grandfather planted some or most of the vines that you're using still today.
And one of the vineyards, we know how long is this vineyard because my great grandfather planted on his 21 years.
Oh,
So,
when on his 21 when he was 21 years old, so it's easy to
yeah.
calculate.
So when my great grandfather was 21 years, planted this vineyard. So now I'm working on them with 23 years and four generations later. It's
And you're still using some of the same vines as he planted back then in the time.
yeah,
That's
a long time.
and that's an
Yeah.
interesting story, but we'll talk more about that. But you didn't start in the wine business because when you went to school, then afterwards you did something else first before going
Yeah,
back in the winery.
I was trying to learn about everything, not just the wine world. Like, if you just, I mean, if you are learning about all the wineries, all the people from the wine, it's difficult to have another perspective
Hmm.
of it. So my father, he was always a kind of outsider of the wine, and he told me if I wanted to learn from other countries, from other businesses. Like I was
Hmm.
studying informatic engineer for 3 years, and then I was working on publicity. It's not the same business, but I was working on creativity advertising in Madrid, and now I can learn from the winery, but with another perspective. I
Yeah.
know how the informatics businesses work and how the advertising or big brands advertising
How to
work.
build or maybe reinforce the brand for the winery.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Or just learn how the people in the big cities work, and now I can take the good things from there and
Hmm.
bring it to the village, to the
Yeah.
our small
But
village.
you still have to keep the tradition because it's important. So you cannot change everything, but you use some of this knowledge that you have to make changes or improve or try new things at least.
Yeah, but always with the tradition.
Yeah.
I mean, now I'm learning, just learning, and trying to help in the things I can manage. Like
Yeah.
we're trying to do the traceability of the wines, all the computer things in the winery. It's more comfortable for me than my father, so I
Yeah.
can work with it. But I'm not changing like the winery gonna be so different because this is bad and this is no.
No,
I'm
no,
learning.
no. A lot of things, most things are already good and they don't need change, but some things you can add maybe.
Yeah, I can bring these good things to the next generation. I'm not
And every,
changing
and
the.
every generation brings a little bit, changes some extra to the recipe.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah, that's
I
it.
think it's a good I think it's a good way of thinking. So talking about Cigales, for the people that don't know, because before I got to talk with you, I was not. I mean, I'm not saying that I'm expert on Spain, so it's normal that I don't know all the appellations.
Yeah,
But
of course.
Cigales with me was me for quite unknown. So when I did the research and we talked, I heard about Cigales as rosé. Well, it used to be, not anymore only. But tell us a little bit about where is Cigales is located first, and what is it known for?
Okay. Do you want me to show my window and where are we now?
Yeah, we can do it, but first maybe we talk a little bit about where it is
Okay.
situated on the map with the other regions that
Okay.
are neighboring, for instance.
Okay. So first of all, we are in Valladolid. It's
Hmm.
the city of Ribera del Duero, Rueda, Vinos de Castilla y León. It's like wines of our region. And Toro, a bit of Toro. And
Yeah,
Cigales, it's probably the smallest region of wine in Valladolid. We are really close to the city, like 5 minutes to the center, to the downtown of Valladolid.
Valladolid. Yeah,
Yeah, like 5 minutes. I can see Valladolid from here right now. But we're really small, like from here to the end of the denominación de origen, to Cigales, it's 15 kilometers. It's
so
so
really small.
small. Yeah,
But
and
you're
the
also
wine.
enclosed, you're neighbored by these big regions, famous regions like Ribera del Duero is next to you. You're sort of
Yeah,
in closed in with the other.
we're from here, 30 kilometers from the start of Ribera del Duero. And
Yeah,
our last vineyard in Cubillas, another village,
yeah,
10 kilometers from here, it's 15 kilometers from the start of Ribera del Duero.
yeah.
And
So close.
in the, yeah, we are so close. And from Rueda, we are like 30, 40 kilometers from here. We are all in the same place, but you have to put the limit in.
Yeah.
You cannot say like all
Somewhere you draw a
Valladolid.
line, but the line is not natural. It's artificial.
Yeah, of course, of course. There's not any terroir different here because there's one mountain or no. It's you have to put the line, and if
So
the line.
if you look at the soil and the climate, for instance, the differences are not that big. You're saying between Rueda or Ribera del Duero.
Maybe Rueda because the field it's a bit different, but not too much. I mean, it's a few kilometers, so you cannot change the. It's not
No,
crazy.
no.
But we're more like Ribera del Duero. The fields and the are maybe very similar, but Ribera del Duero it's 130 kilometers,
Hmm.
I think, or something like that. So it's really different from
Yeah. So
here to.
within the appellation of Ribera del
Yeah,
Duero, there is even obviously more differences.
yeah, that's it. So sometimes we say we can make a really good red wine, and in Ribera they can make a good rosé wine.
Yeah, it's not impossible for both.
Yeah, it's possible.
Yeah.
And sometimes the people say, no, I don't want a rosé wine from Ribera del Duero, because Ribera, it's a really good red wine.
Yeah.
But they say, I prefer the Cigales. And it's a, you can
Uh-huh.
try a good wine from Ribera. They also did good rosé wines before the Tempranillo revolution.
Yeah.
So Sometimes
So
you have to think
if you do a
about
blind tasting with people, for example, would you go to Madrid on the Plaza Mayor or something, and you put a table with 3 bottles of rosé wine from Rueda, maybe, and Ribera del Duero and Cigales. People probably, if they don't know what it's from, where it's from, they will just pick the different other bottle if they don't.
maybe you can't do a rosé wine from Rueda.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but maybe. And the thing why we are famous, because we was talking about why is Cigales famous for
Yeah. So
which
what
wine?
happened? Something happened because for some reason people
Yeah.
think about it like this.
Cigales, it's really famous for the rosé wines. And why? Because we are really small, the wineries are so small, and why we are famous because of the rosé wine. And it's a lot of years ago, like 30 years ago, the rosé wine for Spain, the whole Spain, was from here, but not made in here. I mean, probably you can bought some wine in Galicia, in the north of Spain, in the south of Spain, but they sell it from here. And this is why,
So the label says Cigales, but to be honest,
yeah,
was not really from Cigales, most of it.
yeah, it was not Ribera del Duero, there was not Cigales, it was no wine regions in
Yeah,
Castile and Leon yet. I mean,
yeah.
40 years or 50
There was
years, I
only
don't want
Castilla
to.
and Leon. There was one big part, not just.
Yeah, one big part, and that's it. So, a lot of people from here made a lot of wine here and in around Castile and Leon, also in the north of Spain and everywhere. But they sell it from here, and now if you go to Madrid, maybe there's some people who was buying the wine later from Cigales, and they say, "Oh, Cigales rosé." And
Yeah,
it's that's and here in Valladolid, maybe Valladolid, it's a city which we drink rosé wine for tradition.
yeah,
In Madrid, red wine.
yeah.
There's
Nobody
not
drinks.
nobody drinks red wine. Here in Valladolid, you can sell 2 millions of rosé wines. Not me, I mean the
Yeah,
whole
in general.
denominación de origen. All Cigales can sell a lot of wine just in Valladolid. But if you go to Madrid, anyone drinks rosé wine. So
So is it
it's
also a challenge? Was it a challenge because something changed? And we will talk about that in a minute as well. For you, for the winery, is something changed because now you're producing very good red wines. So we will talk about that. But was it for that reason not a handicap or maybe difficult to in the beginning start selling red wines because people have in their heads this opinion about Cigales and red wine and rosé wine?
well, first of all, we're really small wineries.
Yeah.
We don't have the power to change maybe anything. So it's really difficult for us to change the mind of the people in big small wineries.
Yeah.
If you have one, if Vega Sicilia was in Cigales, if
Yeah, it's different.
maybe
If
if
Coca-Cola,
it's,
if you would with the Coca-Cola of soft drinks, it was different.
yeah. So it's really difficult for us when we was making rosé wines, when the Tempranillo revolution, when Tempranillo was from Rioja, and 30 years ago, the people, some wineries from here, tried to bring the Tempranillo to Ribera del Duero, and it was really nice. And then start Ribera del Duero.
So also maybe you started a little bit the revolution from Cigales to, let's say, start Ribera del Duero up.
The thing is, we had some old vineyards, so we tried to. A friend of my father, who is Cesar Muñoz, our enologist,
Yeah.
he made one winery very important at that time with old vines, just old vines. Doesn't matter if it's from Ribera, from Rueda, from Galicia, from old vines.
Hmm.
He was taking small parts of old vines,
He was
and he made,
rescuing more or less the old vines.
yeah, and he asked my father, Ignacio, I'm making red wine with your old vines, and it's really nice.
Yeah.
Why don't you try it? And my father said okay. And Cesar Muñoz, who is the enologist of Chivite, it's well known here in Spain, they started to make the red wine in Bodega Cesar Principe in 2000.
So this is the point where the change more or less started to go into more red wine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we have 94 scores in Parker,
Yeah.
in Robert Parker, in the first vintage.
So the first
So
vintage that you released for the red
yeah,
wines. So this is the one, also the one I think we're going to taste today. So this is the flagship wine, still the same wine. Nothing
yeah.
changed in the meanwhile.
Well, the wine now it's from 17, but
Yeah, but
but
in principle, we're more or less talking about what we're going to taste today. I know it's 20 years later or more now, but the first vintage that was released there, you said, got a 94 score with Robert Parker. So it
yeah.
was an instant
So
success, more or less.
yeah, because my father don't even know about Robert Parker. He was
So
in
how did how
Washington
how how did he get the score? What happens? Who gave him? Who told him you have to go?
because
Or
because of Cesar Muñoz, the enologist. He knows about everything.
everybody?
So yeah, so he was moving the wine, but I mean, my father was one. I don't know how it says in English. Viticultor, the person who
Yeah.
works
Wine,
in
wine
the
grow,
vine.
the wine grower, not the winemaker.
Yeah, wine grower, sorry, yeah. So he was making the rosé wine with his father, Cesar Principe, and in the underground winery, and that's it. And one friend of him said, "Why don't we try to make the red wine?" So my father started to do the wine as he knew, and Cesar Muñoz says, "Why don't we try to bring this wine to Robert Parker?" And my father said, "Who is
Your
this
father
guy?"
said, "Okay, I don't. If you want,
Yeah,
try it."
and who is this guy, and why he wants to try my wine? Like he
Yeah.
didn't even know about this, and he went to Washington in 2000. For my father, it was a really big, like mind-changing moment
Hmm.
of the wine business.
So your
And
father
he
stepped
was,
on the airplane with the wines to Washington to go to Robert
yeah,
Parker for the rating.
yeah, and it was really good.
94 points.
And yeah, 94 points. And for the first vintage, it was like, well, my father didn't know if it was good or bad,
His
but it was
reference
really
was
good.
his reference was very limited to it. So for him, it was like, okay, I taste it. I think the wine is good, but compared to other wines, it's difficult for him to was difficult for him to say what it was, how good it was, or
Yeah. But and this was the first moment we thought that we can make a good red wines with the old wines.
yeah.
This was
So
the
in the
first
end,
moment.
it took an American guy to give your father the feeling and the confidence that this wine was actually so good that he should stick to this red wine and focus on this.
Yeah,
Not
and
only,
in my
I'm exaggerating maybe, but
the thing is, Cesar Munoz, the enologist, you can think about, I can make a good wine, but sometimes if you think about it, it's really good, but for the market, it's really hard to sell one
yeah,
red wine from Cigales. So sometimes I think the scores are really, you have to know it maybe, but there's not the main thing of the wine.
no,
You can, so, but the thing is, for the market, if you have 5,000 wines to taste, you can say, okay, that's 94 points. This is
yeah.
this one can be better or not. It's a kind of reference, the scores. So for the market for selling red wines from Cigales, it's really important at some restaurants of distributors.
So let me throw a stone in the a rock in the water here. Um, um, wouldn't it not? Because I earlier asked you. Obviously, it might have been a challenge to sell red wine from Cigales because of the idea that people had. Would it not already be easier to go outside Spain? Because outside Spain,
Yeah.
nobody thinks about rosé and Cigales. And Robert Parker says 94 points in 2000 already.
Yeah. But the thing is, we sell the wine in. We was in Switzerland a lot of years. We had a really good market there, and we're moving around the center of Europe. We was in London as well. We was in United States as well, and now in Mexico, in Brazil, and we're moving around all these
You're
places
exporting,
because
yeah.
yeah, we are exporting because here it's difficult just to sell it in because you think in Valladolid we have Vega Sicilia, we have Rueda, we have Ribera del Duero, we have Toro, we have
Yeah.
a lot of wines. It's like the city of the wine from here in Spain.
Of
So
the
it's really
Tempranillo.
yeah, from Tempranillo. So you say, okay, it's really difficult to sell it here, but you like, it's nice to go to the restaurant in your city and ask for for your one. But yes, we are trying to export and we're moving around Europe and United States, America, because it's
So
easier.
maybe with your background in advertising and also business and computer science, you're thinking differently. I'm not saying that your father never had the idea because maybe he thought about it as well. But for you, is a different way of seeing it maybe than 20 years ago it was.
Well, now the thing is, in advertising, sometimes the brands buy the advertising, buy the brand.
Yeah.
Like, I wanna make, I'm the wine of the people. Okay,
Yeah.
pay for that and do it. Now I'm trying to be the speaker of my family culture.
Yeah.
I'm not
So
trying to make the brand. I'm just trying to,
articulates the family DNA.
yeah, like make the form or trying to doing right, but not invent anything. I don't wanna say lies. I don't wanna try
No.
to say,
You
okay,
stay true
I'm.
true to the core or value of the family and the company.
Yeah, that's it. And try to sometimes to speak not just of the wine, to talk about the field, the vineyards. How do you grow the vineyards? How do you make the wine? Why do you use barrels? Sometimes the people say, I want a wine with 20 months of barrel.
Yeah.
Why? Uh, what's a variety?
It's no guarantee for something.
Yeah, that's it. So sometimes I'm young, and some people from my age don't drink wine because it's for old people or
Yeah.
for people who knows about the wine. And I'm trying to make it easier. Like my father told to me, my father never told me, okay, try this wine. It's barrel, vanilla. No, drink it. Do you like it? No, okay.
Yeah.
Let's
Okay.
try.
Then you don't have to drink it. Yeah. Yeah. He's not.
So I'm
He never forced you into drinking the wines or
no,
liking the
no, not.
wines even.
And now, in my family and my grandfather, we usually for the usual dinner or usual brunch, we drink rosé wine
Yeah.
because
This
for
is the
us
tradition for Cigales. Simple.
it's the tradition for Cigales and a lot of village from here, and it's like food for us. We have I already told you like bread, wine, and then if we have what more? But first of all, bread in the table and wine
And the rosé wine.
and rosé wine. We call it clarete. Here we ask for clarete,
So this is
and
the name for rosé wine locally.
it's the name for the rosé wine here in Spain. And now for us it's like food. I mean, we are not alcoholic. We don't drink
No.
one bottle per day each one. No, it's just if you want to drink one glass or.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not for drinking. It's just a food. And then in the weekend, you or we try one good wine. But I mean, we don't drink Cesar Principe each
Every
weekend.
day.
Yeah, I
No.
mean, it's for the birthday. I mean, it's
It's good.
our wine, but we're really we don't like to. Okay, Vega
No, but
Sicilia. Okay,
it needs to remain special, and I think you're saying the right thing because you need to. And I heard people say this earlier as well when they talk about. I think even Jean Benondraat said it about DJ. His father said, "I want the
yeah,
people to link the wine with the moment when they drink it and a special occasion."
that's,
And this is the same with your Cesar Principe. You want it to be remain something special, which people think of. Okay, this is when we had a birthday or something. This is when we
yeah.
drink this wine.
This is a really good description
Yeah.
of why we make wine,
Yeah.
and
So you have two
and
sorts. You have the daily wine, which is in your case a rosé wine, and the
yeah.
special occasion wine is the red
Yeah,
one.
and I think it's a really good thing for the people who don't drink wine
Yeah.
usually, because they don't have to know or enjoy one good wine. I mean, if you don't really like strong wines, maybe you're gonna enjoy more one young wine of with no barrel or
Yeah.
3 months or six
Just
months of
pure
barrel
fruit.
fruit, and you're gonna drink the grape, and you're gonna drink the grape, and it's gonna be more enjoyable for you. And if you prefer the strong wine with vintage of, okay, but let's gonna see which wine do you prefer. If and try and taste a lot of wines, try one and bad wines,
Just
also bad wines.
experiment a little bit with it, but don't
Okay.
experiment with your day-to-day wine. You can have just like your regular day-to-day wine. You don't have to change it. Something you like, you drink, which you always can drink. And then for a special occasion or Sunday when there is the family, everybody, then okay, maybe.
Well, we also change the daily wine.
Yeah,
We usually drink, if we are gonna bottle the wine, we take this to home to try it. because we have
Yeah, you have
to
to
taste
test what
the wine.
the quality is.
That's it. But sometimes we like to try another wines from another parts from Spain, or if one friend of me give me one bottle, like try it. And sometimes we try different wines. Well, just some days, because usually we have one bottle of clarete of
Yeah,
rosé wine in the refrigerator,
it's
and
always
that's it.
there.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, I understand. I like the story. So, in a minute, we will talk a little bit about the which wines you have, so the portfolio for the different wines. Maybe a little bit of
Okay.
numbers about the size of the winery. So, how much hectares do you at the moment make? How many bottles?
Well, my father don't gonna tell it to me, never. Maybe because he don't like to say that number, because some people put you in one number, like,
Categories.
okay, you make 1 million, okay, you're that kind. You make 1,000, okay, you're that kind. And the thing is, we can make a lot of bottles of rosé wine, but if you're Pingus, the wine of
Yeah,
1,030
Centennial.
euros, you're gonna make 1,000 bottles, and you're gonna make 10 millions of euros,
Yeah,
and
you don't need a
and
lot
we
of
can
bottles.
and we can make 1 million of bottles of rosé, and we don't make 10 millions
Only a
of.
small part of what Pingus is making.
Okay, so we make less Cesar Principe. We cannot make more than, I don't know the number, but we don't have more vines of. Uh,
Yeah, but because for the Cesar
Cesar.
Principe, you use the oldest vines that you have, or
Yeah.
so these are the
So
centennial up to 100 years, or how old are they? 50 years.
three of them are 1,003 years, because those vineyards was the ones who my great grandfather planted on his 21 year. But the thing is, there's not all Tempranillo, because
No, different ones.
that's it. So we took just the Tempranillo, and we make the Cesar Principe just with the Tempranillo vines. So this is three of them, and we have more vines with 70 and 60, 70 years. So we make
Yes.
the Cesar Principe with them. But we cannot plant one vineyard with 100 years. It's not
No,
possible.
you can. Yeah, yeah, you cannot buy them. It's not. No.
So we cannot make tomorrow 1 million bottles of Cesar Principe.
No.
Cesar Principe is these bottles
It's always
with.
limited for the reason that the vines you use is old.
That's it. We can make another wine. We have one young wine with 9 months in the barrel, with vines from 30 years to 60 years. It's still old for some
Yeah.
wineries, but for us, we think it's enough for this wine. And the vineyards from 20 for now to 20 for the rosé wine.
So you
This
take
is how
the
we.
for the rosé wines you have you also don't want to use old ones because rosé needs to be fresh, the character of young and fresh fruity. So not really the intense or the how do you call it deductive or concentrated style. Is this you don't need for the rosé wine.
And it's not. I mean, an old wine. It's good for because of the skin of the grape. It's strong, and the skin give the power to the wine. But in the rosé wine, you don't ferment the wine with the skin, so
Yeah.
it's not that
It's
important.
useless. You're
It's,
wasting good grapes.
that's it. It's useless. So it's good to have good vineyards with good vines with the proper productivity of the vineyards, but
For the yields.
you don't want to make better rosé wine with old vines. It
Yeah.
doesn't work.
No, I agree. So you make you make really clear choices on where to use for which wines to use, which vines and which parts of the vineyard. So um, this one we're gonna taste in a couple of minutes. This one is, as we said, is the flagship wine that you have. So for this one, is using the older vines. I'm checking to see. There you are. I lost for the connection for a minute. Now
Yeah,
you're back, huh?
I'm good. Yeah,
Yeah. So I was saying we're going to taste this one in a
yeah.
couple of minutes, but this is the one that is used for where you use the old vines we just discussed. But I also saw last week you were planting new vines, right?
Yes, yes.
So
I'm
what is the
really close to
project behind
the.
this? What are you going to do with it?
Okay,
It's also a
we.
secret or not?
No, 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 it's not a secret. It's just a thing of, first of all, my grandfather bought one vineyard like 20 years ago or 25 years ago,
Hmm.
and it's far from here, a bit far from here, and we went to replant. If you have the vines and some of them dies
Yeah.
because of the age, so you have to put the new ones. And
So
my
you're
father
replacing.
come, yeah, replace the vines. And my father was counting the missing vines, and he said, "Why don't we try to make another vineyard?" And I said, like, it's too much, I think. But the climate and the valley and the soil here, we think it's better than in the other vineyard. So we are making an experiment, like,
I think we're losing the connection again, so let's wait a minute to see if we can get it back. In the meanwhile, for everybody watching, we are going to taste in a couple of minutes the wine, obviously, which already we poured in and it's waiting for us. So just a minute and Juan will be back. And we're going to talk about this. It's a Crianza, actually, red wine, Tempranillo based, and this was the one we're going to taste, 2017 vintage, and it's the flagship wine for Bodega Cesar Principe. And this is actually where it all started with the red wines. And let's see, now we can get Juan back, maybe. Just a minute. Yes, Juan.
I mean,
Yes.
I don't know if it's my problem or sorry about that.
That's okay. That's okay. We're back. I was explaining that we're about to go for tasting for the wine. But we talked about the new project and this is an experiment that you guys are going to do.
We're trying to if we're gonna make we're gonna plant new vines in a 30 years old vineyard. It's oh okay. So it's not really good because we are making the old vines with the young wine
But you
vines
cannot
in the
mix
same
it. You need to make a choice.
place.
Either everything out or you keep
That's
it.
it. So we're trying to bring the vine here bit by bit, and we're gonna try it. but the thing is, if we prefer the old vines instead of the young vines, so that's it. That's
There's only
but
one
we're
way to find out: to plant and to harvest and make the wine, and then you see.
and the thing is, we have one vineyard in the back of the winery, and my father said like this vine is too young for making a red wine. But he said like if this vineyard was planted the year we made the winery, it's 20 years old
Yeah,
because the winery
so young.
have 20. It's so young. But if you go to some wineries or some, I don't wanna make bad things, so I don't wanna say bad things about any, but some people are making really good red wines with 20 years old vineyards. So it's the thing is, my father said like if I plant it now, in 10 years, it's gonna be 10 years, this vineyard. And it's 10 years, it's really fast. So the thing is, if we plant it now, when in my in my 40 birthday, it's gonna be 20 years old, the vineyard. So,
Yeah, but this is the thing. You're not how do you say? You're never really only planting vines for yourself. You're planting vines for your next generation. So when he makes a decision, it's not only about him. It's more about you. What you're gonna do with it.
that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. And now the thing is, when we work in the field, when we work in the vineyard,
Yeah.
uh, my father don't work in the vineyard just for making wine and just for he's working in the field and making care of the vineyards because it's the legacy of the of my family. And
Yeah.
if he wants to goes to me and my sons and we have to work each year working on it. Each
Yeah.
year,
It's not a project only for him. It's a project for you to take over and for your sons, if you have children, to take over. It's not one decision you make for one generation.
that's it.
Yeah.
This is the old vines culture,
Yeah.
and yeah, if you just wanna make a business, you can buy grapes and you can buy wine and make your
Then it's
own
different.
wine.
But you have a heritage. The vineyards is your heritage, and this is what you have to be thoughtful about all the time.
That's it.
It's always with you. It's never
We feel
changing.
this is a business, but this is not just a business.
No.
We feel it like our home.
And everything is the home, not the building, not only the vineyards, the whole winery, everything, the cellar, everything.
And you have one wine in your house with the name of my grandfather.
Yeah.
So it's an honor for
It
me.
doesn't go away, yeah. It stays on the label every year. It comes back. Yeah. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the wines you have. So, can you quickly summarize the different wines you make, and then we're gonna taste this special one in a couple of minutes.
Okay. I'm gonna make a fast review of the wines. I have them here. So I'm
Yep.
gonna start of the rosé wine, the typical rosé wine from our winery.
Your
And this
daily
is
drinking wine.
our daily drinking wine. This is Clarete de Luna.
Yeah,
You can read the Clarete.
yeah, yeah.
And this is 60% Tempranillo and 40% of different varieties. And this is the color of the rosé wine from here.
So it's
This
really
is
red, more red than
it's really
pink.
red.
Yeah,
But we have the Charlatan.
yeah. This is more like
This is
Provence.
Yeah, this is a wine from La Provence, but made in Cigales. This is our project of bringing these
Trend.
colors.
The trend
Yeah.
for light color wine, light color rosé wine.
So we use one really dark variety of it's red Grenache, I think Grenache, yeah. So we just it stay a little bit of time with the skin. We just put like
You have a short
20.
skin contact. So for the people that
That's
don't know, the
thank
shorter
you.
the time you use the bring the wine in contact with the skins of the grapes, the lighter the color of the wine, and a rosé in this case.
Yeah, that and you can make a rosé wine with the color of. You can make a rosé wine with the color of red wine. If you take a long time with the skin contact, you can make a really dark rosé wine. So this is our two rosé wines, and now we have the red wines, and this is the 13 Cántaros Nicolás. This is a young wine, 9 months in the barrel, with the vineyards with 30 years, 40 years. This is more smooth, more fruity than the Cesar Principe, and this comes with this label, with this brand,
Yeah.
and here you can read Debo 13 cántaros a Nicolás, firmado Eutiquio. It means I have to pay 13 cántaros, it's 13 gallons, to Nicolás, and it's signed by my great grandfather. And this was one writing in the wall of our old winery, because of my great grandfather had to pay this quantity of wine to his neighbor of the winery.
So it's a memory to your great grandfather who wrote it, and you took it on the label.
Yeah, we took a picture of it, and this is the label of the wine.
I like it.
And
The story.
yeah, and because of in the old wineries, you have to fulfill the deposit to start to ferment it.
Yeah.
And if you don't have enough grapes to fulfill it, you can ask to the neighbor, like, "Hey, can you give me 1 gallon of?"
Otherwise,
Okay,
you
that's it.
cannot even do fermentation.
That's it. Because if you don't fulfill the deposit, you lose this capacity of wine. So
So
he
this is
was
what
making.
happened. So he wrote it down.
That's it. And we don't know if my great grandfather paid it,
Maybe he
but
did not pay it, but okay, the story is good. It's maybe better even. It's a good deal, maybe.
now this is the Cesar Principe, the wine who that's it. Yeah.
Which vintage you have? Also 2017. I opened.
What? Sorry?
Which vintage did you open? I opened the 2017.
I'm opening the 2017 as well.
Oh, good, perfect. I also like.
Yeah.
You sent me 2012. I like it, but I didn't want to do it today. So I hope you took the same one. But it's good.
You have to drink it with good people and in a good place, and you're gonna enjoy it.
Yeah, perfect. But it's a Crianza. This one.
Yeah, it's a crianza, 100% Tempranillo, with all vines. It's in vase. The old vines are all in vase. I think it's called. And my father was pruning the vineyards himself till the last year or the 2 years ago, because he don't want to anyone to prune in the wrong way, because it's bad for the vineyard. So there's small vineyards with all vines. We treat it like the best we can do it, and in the winery we put it in French barrels,
Mixed?
14 mixed. It's 80% of French barrel and 20% of American
Okay.
barrel. And it's 14 months. It's not just 14 months. I mean,
We're losing the connection here for a second, so waiting to get Juan back. Unfortunately, the weather today is not so good, I think, so we have to re-establish the connection every now and then. But probably he will be back in a couple of minutes. He just left the show, so I will just pick up where he left. The wine ages ferments for 15 months, more or less, in oak. And now let's get Juan back. And they use the old vineyards, the old vines to for the grapes to produce.
oh,
So
yes.
I was picking up. I try now. I have a bit of understanding about the way of working for your wines and your vineyards. So I was explaining you use the old vines. It's minimum 50 years old. It's different ages, but minimum 50 years for this
Yeah.
one. And you have the fermentation, the aging for 15 months on oak and then bottle.
Yeah, but not always 14 months, because if this vintage needs more time in the barrel, we're
Yeah.
gonna leave it. And
Yeah,
if
on the 2017 it says 15, but the 18 could be 14 or 16 or 12.
yeah, that's it. That's it. Because if the wine is something natural, each year makes the climate, the
Yeah,
everything is
it's all.
different.
And there is no sense of making a rule that it should be this many months when every year the ingredients are different, more or less.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
So we try, it's around 14 months or 15 months, but depends on the vintage.
Yeah.
And now I think we can try it already.
Yeah. I will show for the audience this really nice dark color, and recommended to decant or at least give some air before consuming the wine, right? There's really a fresh fruity smell, nose to it.
And there's barrel on it. You can taste the wood, but not too much, because some years ago it was the it was famous. I don't know how to say. Some wines try to make really woody wines.
Yeah, like stubborn wine even.
Yeah,
Hard
and
head.
we try to make this wine with the same and not move because of the famous guy modas, because of the modes.
Yeah.
So we try to make, first of all, to have one not good wine. We want to make a wine to enjoy.
Yeah. That's the
We
most
we say,
important thing.
yeah. If we make one really or too much complex wine because we made one fermentation in the barrel and we did this with it, and you make crazy with these things, we prefer to make one good wine to enjoy. We
Yeah.
say here que esté rico. Rico, it's taste good. Who tastes
Yeah.
good, you can drink 2 bottles if you want. Not 2 bottles, but in one dinner with your friends, you can drink it and not. Oh, this is really good, but just for 1 cup.
Yeah.
No, it's you can drink it easily. I mean, not in the morning. You cannot drink this wine in the
No, no,
morning.
no. It's still too much alcohol also for that, I think.
Yeah.
Because it's I forget to tell for the people, 14.5% alcohol.
Yeah.
It's interesting wine because the nose is very, very fruity and even perfume-like, and very soft and elegant, outspoken, but in a feminine way more. And the taste, the palate is really, really more manly, but controlled still. So it's not like overshouting you with the wood, like you said. A lot of people think that the wood needs to be the main player in the experience, but this is really, well, it's obviously really there, but it's not too, yeah, too overwhelming, I would say. We're again having problems with the connection, so let's hope that Juan can come back for the last part of the show, and then we're gonna wrap it up. In the meanwhile, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat, or there is a question mark box where you can also enter the questions, and we will, at the end of the show, ask them to Juan. So Juan's coming back now. Just a minute for him to join in the show. Yes, there we are. That's okay. That's okay. We were enjoying the wine, so yeah.
We was checking the connection. Everything was okay, but
Yeah. It's one
something.
moment and then it can change.
Yeah. So I was talking because I'm not an expert of tasting wines.
No.
I don't want to say if this wine have to taste to vanilla, to wood. I don't want to make the things difficult. I just want to communicate to you how we make this wine,
Yeah.
how my family try to make the wine.
And what the reason is why
And
they do it like they do it.
yeah, that's it. And why we make the wine. Sometimes we forgot that the wine it's to enjoy.
Yeah, not
Because
to think about it too much.
sometimes we started to think how the wine is it's made, and the complex of the wine, the things of the wine, and you, it's like drink the wine, enjoy it,
Yeah.
and we can talk about how we make the wine because I think it's a really
There's reasons why you
different.
do the things you do. There's choices you
Yeah,
make.
that's it. But I don't want you to say, do you like the vanilla with the red fruit on? Because first of all, I don't know how to do it. That's the truth. And the second thing is, I think we can enjoy more talking about the things in the field, in the vineyard, in my family, in the winery, why we make these things and why we make the barrel, we put these barrels better than just the liquid.
No, I agree with you. I would add to that, it is possible to talk about the character of a wine without talking about the notes or aromas, because this is very, how do you say, if you smell vanilla, somebody else maybe does not smell it. So I agree with you. This is a difficult point. But characters, it's possible. Last week, we had a guest from Portugal, and they named their wines after family members. So all of them, they have a family member name. And what they try to achieve is to create a personality in the wine that aligns with the personality of the name for the family member that they name it for. So when I asked, in that case, when I was asking Carlos, we were tasting the Julian. Is his father, and this is what the name of the wine is. I said, he explained it to me. I said, okay, if I ask you what it tastes like, you're gonna say it tastes like my father. Yeah, more or less, this is it. You describe how your father is. I never met him. I saw a picture, but you like things like words like elegant or manly, stuff like that. People get an idea about that. And you don't have to talk about vanilla or raspberry or yeah. I mean, yeah, you can do it, but it's not.
And I mean, this is because I'm from the winery.
Yeah,
I mean, if you're a master of wine,
it's different.
he can talk about it's different. He gonna express the difference between this wine and this wine
You're
and talk about
comparing
the
all the
temperature.
time, and then you're not comparing it. It's just your wine, and you're
Yeah, that's it. Because the master of wine can can enjoy because of watching the differences,
yeah.
and it's a really good work. I think it's really
It's an art.
rich.
It's a mastery. You need to, yeah, it's
It's
skillful
hard,
to do
but
it.
yeah, and if I'm a master of wine, we can talk about the difference between one variety from here and one, and this is enjoy as well. This is really good as well. But
Yeah.
I work in my winery. I can talk about how we make the things here, and I think for me, it's I can talk more about this thing
Oh,
and
that
less
makes
about
sense.
the yeah.
I agree with you. It makes sense. So let's go into questions. Last week we had a guest, like I said, from Portugal in a family winery. And Carlos's question was more or less, okay, you're in a family winery, you're in the next generation. So now you're working aside your father together with him. Are you already preparing for the future in terms of the next generation? We already talked about it a little bit because of this vineyard behind the winery. But or are you really at this moment still really focused on the present as it is with him in working in the winery? So can you tell us a little bit about that? That's the question he had.
Well, first of all, as I already said, I'm learning, I'm helping in the things I can manage,
Mm-hmm.
but now I'm thinking we are two in the winery. We're Ignacio Principe and Juan Principe. Now I think it's better for everyone to make a team, like go as a team and focus on the winery, each of us. And
Yeah.
in 5 years, 10 years, when my father, if he wants to leave it to me, we can focus on the
Yeah.
next generation. But for now, we think in work together to make
For you to learn
the best
also, to watch and to see, because there's still enough to learn for you now at the moment.
yeah. And now uh, I don't really know how to make wine
No, it
because
takes time. It takes time.
my father is like 50 harvest at the moment, so he had every single problem he can have
Yeah.
because he had a lot of problems,
And you
a lot.
don't get them in one vintage. It takes time to get all these problems.
That's it. So, and how we prune the vines, how we can manage the harvest, how we do everything. It's because we take care of the vineyards. We make the wine, we bottle the wine, and we sell the wine.
I think it's a valid point, and I also understand if you're the longer you are in the company, it's sort of a natural process that these things. I mean, you get knowledge about it, and I think maybe also your father gets the feeling, okay, maybe I have to some decisions I have to leave to Juan and not to myself, because at some point you need to start doing this transition for
Yeah,
tasks.
but for now, I'm
Yeah.
focused of learn, and it's a luck for me to have my father because he knows a lot of wine. He
Yeah.
knows a lot, and for me, I'm so lucky to have him for everything. Like I can ask of everything of the winery, of the market, of the another wineries. I have a really good teacher. I
Yeah.
mean, and it's
Yeah.
my father.
I mean,
So
and especially for this winery, you have the best. There is no better teacher because he grew up in it as you grow up in it. He grew up in the same vineyards. He's seen the grapes develop, the vineyards, the vines develop. He's seen the changes and the choices his father made. And for you, it's the same. So yeah, you have no other option to learn better than from him in that perspective.
that's
Yeah.
it.
Okay.
And
So next week we are going to New Zealand. So it's very different, obviously. They even make red wines. I didn't realize too much. I knew that they made it, but it's not famous for red wines. It's more famous about Sauvignon Blanc, more or less. Huh? But
yeah.
do you have a question for our guest for next week when we're going to talk about New Zealand? It's a very different country, but interesting maybe.
My question is because I was talking about my culture, my tradition, my family, and my wine. I want to know how the in New Zealand the wine production
Hmm.
exploded like I don't know how many years ago, but it's a thing new
It was
or
like, it was there.
yeah. And I want to know how this changed the people from New Zealand to have I mean how the village changed with the wine grow.
So you
How
mean also the communities and the cultures, how the
yeah,
yeah.
or his family. How his family or his winery or his how he lived this change. Because I think it's really important. Here we don't didn't feel the change of Cigales or Ribera
Yeah.
or maybe in Ribera it's more important, but he was normal. But I can imagine if in my village from 1 year to 10 years change everything, all
Yeah.
vines, how the people learn to make wine, how the people learn to prune the vineyards, how
Well,
it's
it's a fair question because you have even, for example, only take your own winery. You have vines that are 100 years old. New Zealand, they don't have old vines. I mean, yeah, old is relative, but it's only a couple of decades. So before that, they had sheep and there was agriculture, more or less, maybe yes, but not a wine industry. So it changed quite a lot.
changed. And yeah, it changed a lot. And how can you because here in Fuensaldaña, my village in Cigales, the people, everyone knows how to prune the
Yeah,
vines because everyone have
a
at
family
least
member
one.
or is in the same.
Yeah, that's it. But when you go to a place who no one knows nothing about wine, and then boom, it's. I think it's crazy, and it's. And I want to know how he feel it, the change of the
An
wine
interesting
shop.
question. Our guest works for Villa Maria. It's the biggest family-owned wine company in New Zealand. So it's not I would say a winery because they have multiple different wineries and labels, but because they are the biggest wine company in New Zealand and but still family-owned, they have influence, strong influence on different wineries in different regions in New Zealand. So I think they can, well, they would be able to answer how that changed over time.
Okay,
Good question.
perfect.
Okay. I just wanted to say if somebody else has a question, we can still do it, but I had no question dropping in. So I have one last question in the meanwhile, and maybe somebody else drops one and then we can handle that. But my question would be, and I know it's sometimes really difficult to answer, but You already told me that you also try or like to drink wines from other winemakers and other regions because it helps you to learn things, but it's also just nice to enjoy something very different. I
Yeah.
know you have a good relationship with Jean and the Belandrat family. So my question is not about them, but maybe the answer is them. My question would be, from all these wines that you drink and all these wineries that you tasted, which is the one that you learned from the most, more or less, from their wine and how they did it? An example that you maybe carry with you, where you think, okay, interesting how they did this, and maybe I want to do the same, or even if I don't want to do the same, I think it's really interesting how they do it.
Can I talk about Jean?
Yeah, you can. I mean, I bring it up, but like I said, if you want to talk about somebody else, he's not going to be angry, I think. So, yeah.
Yeah. The thing is, not just as
Yeah.
friends, but the thing with Jean and his project, it's he he knew that they knew how to make one really good wine of a variety who didn't. The people said like it's white wine
Simple
for
wine.
the simple wine,
Verdejo.
and they knew how to put this simple wine
The
here,
level up.
level up. And now I think the winery Belondrade. It's one of the most important wineries, maybe from here, from Spain at least. And it's really difficult to level up and to recognize your wine like that. And I'm from a region of rosé wines, and it's really hard for me
To think about
make the
outside this
difference.
box.
Yeah. So for me, it's a reference because they knew how to put one simple variety in the top, at the top. And I want to bring the red wine of a region of rosé wines on the
Yeah.
top. So for me, it can be an outsider reference. I think they are really outsider. They thought it could be really good. Didier was a visionary, like,
People in the beginning
and
thought he was crazy, probably. I mean, you can say this, but at the end, everybody thinks he was right. But at the beginning, nobody thought that. But he came there from France.
and now everyone thinks he's a genius.
So it can change in 20, 30 years. You can change everything. So you still have at least 20, 30 good years. So now it's
Yes.
time for you to learn the trick. And I understand why for you it's very interesting to see how they
Yeah.
did it. And I also talked with him about it. They're talking also about the white wines of Spain in general. So how they can sort of increase the name or their brand recognition or the value for white wines in Spain. Because red wines, okay, they're also on a certain level. I mean, you have a challenge for Cigales, but red wines in Spain in general, Rioja is a strong brand. Ribera del
Yeah.
Duero is also already strong now. So the white wines, they also have a huge challenge. So I know he's trying to teach these things to other winemakers as
Yeah.
well there. Yeah.
I have a lot of homeworks
Yeah,
now.
well, at least you're not so far away, so you can pick the car and go have the barbecue with them. And I know you do it, so I think you should keep on learning from everybody that inspires you. So even if it's not your neighbor, I think you can only learn from people that do
It's
different things.
and it's lucky. I'm so lucky to have Jean at this as a friend, more than the wine or
As a
the
colleague,
business. Or,
just as a friend personally as well. Yeah. Yeah.
so this is great for me.
Good. I
And
think
now
I like the answer. I was expecting it a little bit, but you could have maybe tricked me coming up with somebody else. It was okay. And maybe then afterwards I get a phone call from Joe. Why did he not say Belgrade? I don't know, but You made a
No,
safe choice.
I talk about Jean because you already talk with him. You know
Yeah,
him. The people from the channel knows him. So it's I think it's easy. Here in Pago de Carraovejas, it's I think it's a really important winery from here. I think there's a lot of really good wineries and people who are reference, but I mean, we are really similar in the outsider thing of
yeah,
our products.
yeah.
So he's, yeah.
That makes
So we
sense.
have my problem, he have his problem, and he solved it.
Yeah, yeah, and that's what
Really
you
good.
learn. You want to learn from that. But maybe a last thing to remark on that. Maybe your father found somebody like that. It's a very different situation. But when you talk about winemakers, he got lucky to have an experience, to have a very experienced winemaker help him, convince him more or less what he already thought. But well, he was also somebody else said, okay, why don't you give it a try? And these wines are old, but they're good, and you make good red wine. So yeah, everybody needs in their life, on their path, somebody that gives them a direction where they say, yes, go for it.
And here, I think it's really important to know about other wineries, but we are not like a
No,
competition. I'm making this wine and you're making that wine, and my wine is better than yours, and
no, it's not
that's
necessary.
it's not necessary. So we try to learn one by one to know another wineries, to go to see how they make this thing possible, how they make this
Yeah,
wine, and I think it's these some wineries are so close, so they don't want to say anything to
yeah.
anyone.
Everybody needs,
But
everything needs to be a secret, but yeah,
yeah, but there's a lot of wineries who wants to share everything and welcome to my house, and
yeah. But
it's
imagine,
yes,
imagine your father had 50 vintages to learn. It's already a lot, but and he's still working, so he will be more. But if you ask the neighbors and the neighbors next to it and all their neighbors, they also have 30 vintages, 40 vintages, 50 vintages. If you all combine together this knowledge and experience, ah,
yes.
it's massive.
There's it's a
Yeah,
lot, and how to prune the vines. It's not
different from your
okay.
neighbor to you.
Yeah, different. It's because you have to take the decisions of
Where to cut?
when you and I can say, okay, I'm gonna do that, and my father said, no, don't do that. Try to make this because you can make this one, and you can ask another one for. No, don't do it. Don't do
They will
it.
have a
You have
different
to.
opinion.
That's it. So it's really good to know another perspectives and another things and learn from the people.
Totally agree. So.
And you help us to do it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I also learned a lot from the talks like this. I mean, I'm also, let's say, feeding on knowledge that you and your father had, and now in the result, it comes down to this, and we enjoy it. And like you said, the most important thing is to enjoy it, but still, the
That's it.
background and how it comes together, how it gets in the bottle and in the glass in the end, it's really nice story. And I always recommend people to try to read up a little bit more, or maybe talk to the winemaker if they can, to understand why the choices they make are made and how it affects the end result.
And I want to say just one thing.
Yeah,
Uh, I think now there's not bad red wines. There's not bad wines because now there's not any mistakes like a lot of years ago.
no.
Now I think every wine is correct,
The overall
and
quality
it's
is good, is average, or
yeah,
at least minimum.
that's it. And it's really hard to make wine.
Yeah.
It's really hard to make wine. It's not
There's a lot of
water.
decisions involved.
A lot of decisions, the climate, the people, the wine is natural. There's not there's no Coke you make with salt and sugar, and no. You have to work with the field and with the market and with the people, the hospitality, the restaurant. There's a lot of work behind. So let's try sometimes to don't say, no, I don't like this one. This is one. No, respect. I just.
I always say, I mean, I also have a limited experience in about wine knowledge and tasting, but it didn't take me long to figure out that you can recognize the quality in a wine without having to like it, because like is a preference, is a taste, but still you can look for aspects that are signs of quality. And this is
Yeah,
the choices of a winemaker in the end. It's their product, it's their wine, so they're allowed to make the choices. It doesn't mean that everybody will like it, but that's a different story. The quality still, and the choices are good maybe, but the preference is different.
that's it. Anything else?
Good. Thank you very much, Juan. And I don't know if you have a last remark or for the people that watch, but I really liked our talk.
I really
I hope
like
to see
it.
more Cesar Principe wines in other countries, like in Holland. But I know you're working on it.
I'll try.
Yeah.
I'll try.
So
Thank
it's
you so
important for
much
the people
for.
to know when they see the wine that they try it because it's really good. I don't have to exaggerate on it, but it's truth. And
Thank you.
I know you're working hard on getting more wines in different countries, so it will come.
That's it. And
Good.
thank you so much for inviting me because
My
it's
pleasure.
really, yeah, it's really good for me to meet people like you, just as good people. But for me, as a business, we're a really small winery, and have the time to speak with you and explain my winery and how we say. And you gave me this time to explain myself. So thank you so much.
Happy to do it. And you came in highly recommended, but you delivered. So to be honest, it was not exaggerated at all. I think it was a wise call to ask you for the show. I think a lot of people enjoyed it. That's why we are making the recording of it, so they can watch it later. It will be on Instagram. And
I wish to be at the head to the recommendation from John.
okay, very good. Now I think you have a very good story, good wines, and I think there's a lot in the future, even more to grow and to to build out the family brand and the family winery. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you,
Have a good
Niels.
evening, and of course we're going to taste. You send in some of the other wines over time, so people that are curious about the other wines you showed us, we're going to review them on the Instagram and the posts. So keep your eyes
Okay.
open, people, if you want to learn more about the other wines, because this excellent wine is going to wash down very easily, and I don't think it's going to last 4 days. So after this one, we're going to go for the next one.
Thank you so much,
Thank you and
Niels.
have a nice evening. And thank you everybody for watching. And next week, as I said, we're going to New Zealand. So it's a very different country, but it's also going to be an interesting story. And in the meanwhile, stay tuned for the reviews for the wines for Cesar Principe. Juan, thank your father as well. And although he's
Oh,
not here, he's obviously a very big part of the company. So thank him for the wine. And everybody, thanks for watching and have a good evening.
good
See you
evening,
later.
Niels.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye bye.
See you.
Bye.